please call the roll?
Delariva.
Here.
Brumback.
Here.
Bund. Here. Sanderson.
Here.
Patey.
Here.
Ahart. Proctor.
Here.
Gerarda.
Here.
Birtles.
Here. I would like to welcome our guests this evening, and at this time I would like to all to stand to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will entertain a motion to approve the August 26, 2024 agenda as it has been presented this evening.
Move to approve.
Second. And Carrie, would you please call the roll?
Bund.
Yes.
Sanderson.
Yes.
Delariva.
Yes.
Brumback.
Yes.
Patey.
Yes.
Birtles.
Yes. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the board's executive closed session meeting held on July 29th, 2024.
Move for approval. Second.
And please call the roll.
Delariva.
Yes.
Bund.
Yes.
Brumback.
Abstain.
Sanderson.
Yes.
Patey.
Yes.
Birtles.
Yes. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the board's special executive closed session meeting held on August 12th, 2024.
Move to approve. Second.
And any discussion, questions? Please call the roll.
Sanderson.
Yes.
Delariva.
Yes.
Brumback.
Yes.
Bund.
Yes.
Patey.
Abstain.
Birtles.
Yes. And at this time, we will go to our board reports as well as our superintendent's report. Dr. Shelton, would you enlighten us?
Absolutely, thank you. We have had a super positive start to the 24-25 school year. Last week, all the buildings had a week full of MTSS back-to-school activities to reinforce building-wide expectations. And from all we saw and heard, it went very well. At the beginning of the year, all of our buildings also received new crisis binders and emergency backpacks with updated crisis protocols. So district-wide, we're shifting to using the codes hold, secure, lockdown, evacuate, and shelter, as opposed to the old ones, which are code colors. And that goes along with the standard response protocol that's recommended by the I Love You Guys Foundation and utilized by districts across the nation. Using that also provides all of our visitors and guests with a common language to be able to access in terms of emergency. So even if you're in a building and you don't really know the crisis plan, if somebody says hold, that kind of makes sense. Evacuate makes sense, right? All of this is part of the district's adoption and training using the Prepare curriculum, which trains mental health professionals and other educators on the roles and responsibilities it takes as it relates to school crisis teams and focuses on prevention, protection, mitigation, response, and recovery. So it's everything from how do we prevent crisis to in a crisis, how do we respond, and then how do we recover. Following the July board meeting, the board asked me to gather input related to the possibility of moving graduation to a Sunday to better accommodate athletes, which may be participating in IHSA postseason play. Each year, the potential exists for baseball, lacrosse, girls soccer, softball, track and field, boys and girls, and boys volleyball athletes to miss graduation because of participating in postseason tournaments. And we had 3 of those teams participating in postseason last year around the time of graduation. Last week, we conducted a survey of students and parents in the class of 2025, as well as EHS employees involved in graduation. We had 631 responses, so nice response rate, with 61% of those responses coming from parents of graduating seniors. Overall, a little over half of the individuals, 59%, who responded indicated that Sunday, June 1st, either at 1 p.m. or 3 p.m. was their first choice. Prior to asking that information, we did confirm that SIUE can hold graduation at either one of those dates and times. So putting that information out for board to jump in and tell me if you have a preference, 59% said they'd go to Sunday.
Are you ready for the discussion
Sure,
now? Okay.
absolutely.
I didn't know if you were going to continue on.
I have more, but it's a nice stopping point to discuss.
Okay.
I would recommend later in the afternoon at 3 o'clock. That way families that...
That was our first choice as well. Yeah. So that puts seniors there about 12:30, between 12:30 and 1, and that's plenty of time for morning church, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Our lone senior on the board, do you have a...
I think Sunday's good because of the track kids and everybody that's going to miss.
on Saturday if we were to have it then.
And I think one of our goals is to do the surveys
Mhm.
and see what the results are and accommodate the majority at that point. And if it's 59%,
That's what it is.
I don't see I recommend that.
Okay.
We follow their,
Everybody good? All
their
right, so we
suggestion,
will,
yeah.
we'll put out a new
Yes.
date for that coming in the next week or so. Finally, some other updates from our board. At our annual retreat, we reviewed committee assignments, and so Jill Bertles and Bob Patey will be serving on the steering committee. Kristen Funn will be serving on parent-teacher advisory. Scott Ahart and Lynn Sanderson will be on equity advisory council, and Jennifer Brumback and Terry Dallariva will be on the Woodland stakeholder team. For the 24-25 school year, each board member was also assigned to a school or schools, and as part of their responsibilities, they'll be involved in a building tour with the principal, attending a PTO meeting, and attending at least one event per semester at those buildings. So trying to work on getting our board members out in buildings at activities in a little more structured way across the district. As we work to make connections with the broader District 7 community, we also want to encourage people, especially those who are not already connected to the district. So for those of you in the audience or watching at home, if you're not connected to the district, to sign up for the District 7 e-news. This is going to work on helping develop a database for us to communicate with people in our community stakeholders on initiatives and news that impact all of our District 7 stakeholders. So if you'd like to sign up for that, there's a QR code that's floating out at some of our community events, but you can also email Mary Ann Mitchell, who is our coordinator for PR. Finally, this fall, we are also launching some community-wide opportunities for stakeholders to meet with me to answer questions, provide information, and just create dialogue about all the things happening in District 7. The opportunities will be held on a variety of days, times, and locations across the district with the intention that they provide opportunities for small group interaction and to learn more about District 7. If you're interested, please reach out to Carrie Francis, and she'll get in touch with you to schedule a group to attend. The first one will be held on Thursday, September 19th at 8:30, and we're going to try to do those monthly at just different dates, times, and locations around the district. And that is all I have.
thank you very much. And we will go on to our student representative reports, and the first one will be junior student representative Josie Proctor.
Thank you. I can't believe it's already the end of August. That seems crazy. The 24-25 school year kicked off on August 14th with a half day, which was very successful coming from a student. From what I've heard, all District 7 open houses were amazing successes, so I want to thank all the amazing staff and parents and students that participated in them. Congratulations to the 8th grade Liberty Middle School baseball team for becoming the champions of the O'Fallon tournament. On Friday, the 23rd, Lincoln and Liberty had their Liberty versus Lincoln softball game, and Midway also held their back-to-school bash on Friday. Today, Nelson had their Bobo's kickoff, which is the first day for their school fundraiser. Casson's Elementary Cougar kickoff is scheduled for Friday, September 13th from 6 to 8, and that's all I have for this month, and I can't wait to see what the school year brings us.
Okay, and we will move on to our student representative, Amelia Jorah.
Thank you. I'd like to start my report off with why we all look like an H2O demonstration from chemistry class. It's National Immunization Month, and in that honor, we all wear navy blue. This month highlights the importance of vaccinations for all ages, so it shines light on talking to your healthcare provider regarding the appropriate vaccines for you and just staying up to date on them. And then we had an awesome transition back into school for the Edwardsville Tigers. This year we're strictly enforcing IDs, no phones in class, and no headwear unless stated for religious or medical purposes. So the students are doing a great job following these rules. The next section of my report is sports heavy. So girls volleyball had their orange and black scrimmage Saturday. Their next game is Tuesday, September 3rd against O'Fallon. Boys football had their first scrimmage against Triad on Friday, and they have another game this Friday. Girls tennis is taking their top 8 girls to travel up for a tournament this weekend. EHS boys soccer completed their week-long season tryouts, and they had their first scrimmage Thursday, and they're actually playing a game against Muscuda tonight, which had to get moved back because of the heat. Girls basketball, golf, cross country, dance, and cheer have also begun their season practices. Seniors recently painted their parking spots. The initial cost per person was $25. Then the proceeds were donated to Special Olympics. The designs were super creative, and when you visit the campus, be sure to check them out. The EHS band completed an intense 2-week band camp leading up to the beginning of school. Their practices were from 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the school. Unplugged, the gardening club is working on clearing out the courtyard with the agriculture students at EHS to replant some of the flowers and clear out some of the extra leaves that have been growing. This is so that senior students are able to sit in the courtyard for lunch, which they're doing right now. Groups such as Key Club, the Edwardsville Care Closet, and Interact Club are meeting back for this year. So I hope everyone kicked off their year strong, and let's keep up with the good work.
Thank you. And we will move on to reports from board members. Do we have any board members that would like to share any reports?
I have the IASB updates. The state legislators will attend our Southwest Division meeting for IASB on September 25th from 6 to 8 in Sparta, Illinois. It's an opportunity for us to ask questions and have discussions with our legislators to find out what's going on with what's impacting schools in Illinois. And if you want to attend, you can contact Carrie, correct? Let Carrie know. There's further details on it. We received an email from Patrick Allen on August 21st, so there's more details on that. The government relations team has posted the 2024 end of session report and the digest bills, and that's also on the IASB website. And then Press and Press Plus issue 116 is available, and you can view that through the IASB website. And that's it.
Thank you. Any other reports? Okay. The next section of the meeting is where we recognize special guests, students who have excelled, and provide the opportunity for our visitors to address the school board. As you can see this year, we have added a table in place of our podium for the visitors to address the board and for those presenting to making any presentations to the board. So student recognitions will be conducted with a wireless microphone against the wall to my left. And following this section, we will take a short recess to allow any individuals who wish to leave to do so prior to the remainder of the meeting. At this time, I would like to introduce Alex Fox, interim principal at Edwardsville High School, to introduce the EHS Drama Club and recognize them for their outstanding accomplishments.
Thank you. Thank you to the board for the opportunity. Obviously, it's always a pleasure to be able to recognize students and staff for the things they do. So, as always, thank you. It's my pleasure to introduce these two young ladies who currently lead our fine arts department and do wonderful things. We've got a great tradition of fine arts in the district, so it's my pleasure to bring up Mrs. Ashley Melton and Mrs. Emily Otwine, two amazing folks that lead our fine arts, are part of our fine arts department and do an amazing job. So, ladies, I'll give you the microphone and feel free to share these accomplishments of these wonderful young people. Absolutely.
Good evening. Thank you so much for giving me a moment to acknowledge the accomplishments of our theater students. Those of you that made it here tonight, thank you for coming for an extra obligation. We are a part of the St. Louis High School Musical Theater Awards. It is a program that is put together by the Fox Charitable Performing Arts Foundation and the Muni's Educational Foundation, and they work together to gather professional artists around the area to come and adjudicate shows from high schools all around 50-mile radius of the arch. And so in a non-competitive art form, it's pretty interesting to see what direction things go. And so we've been honored to be acknowledged and recognized with many trophies now. So this year we were nominated in 5 categories. Outstanding costume design, outstanding set design and execution, outstanding music direction, outstanding pit orchestra, and outstanding choreography, which is under my jurisdiction usually, and would be amiss for me not to mention my student choreographer who graduated last May. And so this team, it just is so invaluable to us, and it's impossible to do this alone. So they always want me to be the figurehead and speak, which I can be pretty okay with, but our students are just magnificent, and to be recognized in 5 categories, we then took 1 award for set design and execution, which to our students that were the techies, the builders, the painters, they weren't surprised at all because they built 16 locations that transferred over 32 times in the process of that production. So we're thankful for our board for your support, for our budget, for our undying amount of students that just come pouring in, and I'm happy to announce that there are over 200 active students signed up for Drama Club this year. So 200. Do you have anything to add? Yes. Thank you to our adults. Mr. Fox.
Can you bring the students forward?
Absolutely, students.
Please.
Students.
And Ashley,
Yes.
would you mind this is your opportunity also to plug your fall play, and we were actually talking about it earlier this evening, so if you could go and plug.
This fall, we'll be working on our first dramatic play that we've attempted to do since 2019. I'm really excited about the educational venture that it's going to be. The title of the play is called Letters to Sala. It is a true story of a woman's time in labor internment camps in Nazi Germany. Her family didn't know this history of their journey and their Jewish heritage. And essentially, she reveals a box of 350 letters that she risked her life to save. And so these letters are actually on display at the New York Public Library. We have permission to project these letters and images of the Krishner family throughout our production. We'll be partnering with the JRCR, our local St. Louis Jewish Community Foundation. They're going to be doing some workshops with us. We're hoping to visit the St. Louis Holocaust Museum. And they're also going to do a student-to-student program that KSDK did an article on last year, where current Jewish high school students come to teach our high school students the cultural pieces that they may not understand and know about. We have our history department partnering with us, and we have our German department partnering with us. So, whew, it's been a great 2 weeks. All right, these kids are the superstars. Yes. We have a little bit of performers, raise your hands, performer people, yes. We have lighting, yes. We have props. Do we have any costumes? You were kind of costumes, yes. And then our set designer painters, yes. So we have a little representation from every branch here. So. Good job.
I think I'm going to take Miss Melton with me everywhere I go. She write my speeches. Miss Boscolo.
And we will proceed with the athletic director, Amy Viscolo, to recognize the EHS track team.
Dr. Sheldon, President Bertles, Board, thanks again for having us. This is our final celebrations of the 23-24 school year. And I say that it's crazy, the success that we've had, but we talk a lot in our department about, we have a hustle mantra, and the H in hustle stands for history. And we made a lot of history this year, and a lot of history. And so I'm going to start off first by introducing Aaliyah Cummington. Aaliyah is our phenomenal throws coach, and my favorite story with Aaliyah this year, she came up and I said, Aaliyah, how's the track meet going? She goes, oh man, Joy's doing really good, but she just passed me on the leaderboard. I don't know how to feel about that, it's a little personal. That just tells you kind of where we're at. So Aaliyah, come on up and talk a little bit more about our special guest, Joy.
First, I just want to thank Dr. Shelton, President Bertles, and the board. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. And Amyville, you guys have been awesome this year. No one has more zeal than Amy, you all. So give it up for Amy. So much passion in what she does. I can speak a lot about Joy. Joy's story. You want to come up here? Yes, come on, Joy. And I could read a long list of accolades for Joy. She was top 9 in the state for shot put in indoor state, ranked top 50 in the state for discus, And of course, she's our 2024 state champion in discus. Give her a round of applause. And yes, she did pass me on the all-time list, so, you know, she's doing great things, you all. But I just want to talk about the support she has as well. Her parents up there, they're amazing. They've been super supportive, and most importantly, the community support. We've had so many people reach out to us. We've had Bill during our interviews, you know, getting us exposed, yes, man. So we're just super thankful for all the opportunities that Joy's been able to receive, and she's only a sophomore. Last year she was not able to compete because it was a very competitive class. She had 2 seniors come before her, so this was also her first time competing at state, and she's a state champion, you all. So we're definitely going for the 2-peat, but most importantly, we're just excited to work hard and for Joy just to keep giving her personal best, because that's enough. Thank you.
And now, we would like you to introduce the girls' soccer team from the high school.
As I continue to talk about history, this one was really special. This is the first ever state trophy in girls soccer for Edwardsville High School. So this one hits a little different. So I don't want to talk and still kill all the thunder for them, but Abby Fetterman, our head coach, if you could come up and talk a little bit about the season and introduce who you have here today.
First, thank you, Board, President Bertles, and Dr. Shelton for unwavering support of your student athletes in the district and at EHS. As Amy said, this was obviously a very special season. We made history, and you will forever be in the history books, these girls. They're videoing me right now. They're an incredibly talented group of young women. Not just on soccer, at soccer, they are leaders in their community, they are leaders among their peers, and this just solidified that. We started off the season kind of just rolling with it. We knew we had a lot of talent, we didn't know how much we had until people started getting hurt, and then we had to bring up more and more talent, and that just rose our level. And we made it to the big dance. We got 4th. So this is obviously not our last time. We will be back. So I want to go ahead and introduce the 2024 4th place state champions. Come on, ladies. I'm not going to introduce them individually. We're not quite sure what the turnout would be because they're all pretty much in season right now. These girls play year round. Lastly, I want to thank Amy Boscolo for helping me navigate all of the details of going to state because I didn't know what I was doing. We did it very well. And of course, I couldn't do it without my coaching staff, Jackie Harlan and Rachel Douglas. We've been together for quite a while, and this was a dream. So thanks, guys. Once again, thank you.
At this time, the board has set aside time for anyone wishing to address the board. I would like to remind our public that this portion of the meeting is for a maximum of 60 minutes, and that time is reserved for comments from the public in accordance with Policy 230, public participation at the Board of Education meeting, and petitions to the board as follows. This will be the only opportunity to address the board during the regular meeting. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. A screen timer will be provided. Individuals may not defer their time to another speaker. If your comments are about matters involving students or district personnel, please refrain from disclosing names. Please understand that the board will not respond to questions made during our public comments, but may direct the superintendent to address these questions in a district communication or at a subsequent board meeting. Please remember that the board generally needs to gather additional information about any questions or concerns prior to responding or taking action. At the conclusion of the meeting, if you have additional questions for the board, please see Carrie Francis, our board secretary. And our first person that has signed up is Caroline Robertson. And if you'd like to come to the table, there she is.
Hi, I'm Caroline. I'm in 5th grade at Columbus Elementary School, and I wanted to talk about Alopecia Awareness Month, which is next month. Alopecia is an autoimmune disease where your body thinks your hair is a germ, so it makes it fall out. There are 3 different types. Patchy, where your hair just has patches where you have hair. Totalis, you have no hair on your head, but body hair, eyelashes, and eyebrows. Universalis, where you have no hair anywhere. I have universalis, which is the rarest kind. I've had alopecia since I was 6, so about 3 years. There are medicines you can take for it, but I decided to not take it. Also, there are amazing wig companies. I have about 10 to 20 wigs. I wore wigs in 1st to 2nd grade and stopped wearing them in 3rd grade. All I want people to know is if someone is different, ask, don't just stare. And if they don't want to answer, just accept it. Thank you.
Thank you. And Sean Seibert, would you please come and address the board?
I'm Sean Seibert, former District 7 employee, current student. I have a 6th grader and a 1st grader this year. About 2 years ago, my son, he started to ride the bus. And I heard about this First Student app. Pretty slick, right? Shows you the bus stop time, shows you where your kid gets on and off. So when you ask a 9-year-old kid what their student ID number is and he gives you the wrong number, I get some other student's information. I bring it up to Mr. Shelton, nothing happens. 2 years later, I bring it up to Mr. Shelton, nothing has happened, and I will quote an email that I just received from him. In order to be able to identify the student, an individual would need to obtain a student ID number for a specific student. This information is protected under the Illinois Student Records Act and is only releasable with parent permission. I spent 2 hours last week on that First Student app. I punched in 250 random ID numbers in succession from number 30,000 till I got to 250 kids. That's 2 hours worth of work, one person. Put in an 8-hour day, you got the whole district in 7 days. I know 250 bus stop locations, pickup times, schools, first and last names. I know all that information for 250 kids, and it took me 2 hours. Now that doesn't seem like it's protected. And it's taken 2 hours for me to find. I've been reluctant to share this because it's pretty sensitive information. All I gotta do is wait for a kid that doesn't have to have a parent at a bus stop. I show up and I say, hey Johnny, Dad's ready to come pick you up. I know exactly what time he gets off. I know exactly what school he goes to. I know exactly when he gets picked up in the morning. I can sit and wait. Mr. Shelton told me it's just as easy to follow a bus home. For 250 kids that I got in 2 hours, it seemed pretty easy to do that. And if you want me to demonstrate, I can, but I don't want to show YouTube how to do it. But I did it. I'm no IT guru. So, those are my comments. Hope it gets fixed. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next person to speak is Tim Gully, and I apologize if that's not a correct pronunciation. Okay.
Hello, my name is Timothy Gully Jr., and I just have a question for the board and the district on what is the board and the district doing to enforce and protect the rights of the parents as far as any type of discrimination or inclusion? What are you all doing to enforce those?
As I said earlier, we're not at liberty to respond at this time.
Oh, okay.
But if you've got other questions, we can take notes and then we'll ask the superintendent or someone else to get a response back to you.
Okay, that's my question.
Okay, thank you. Do you need contact information? Okay. Anyone else interested in addressing the board at this time? Okay, thank you very much. Oh, sure.
My name is Jody Cox. I'm a mother of a student here in the district. So last year, somebody came up and talked to the board about the early bus times and how hard that is on the students. And well, I really commiserated and I really felt that that was important. This year, it really affects our family. I found out that my son's bus time was 5:59 in the morning. And I think that's a little too early for somebody who lives 3 miles from the school. I can understand if it takes 40 minutes to get to school, but he can hop on his bike and be at school in 10 minutes. So I think we should reconfigure how we're doing the bus times and how early these students are having to get up, because I think it's really detrimental to their education. And I'm sorry I didn't say anything last year because it didn't personally affect me, just like everybody in the world. But it really rang in this year when I saw the time was 5 a.m. That was a little shocking. That's all. Thanks.
Anyone else? At this time, we'll take a short break, just 2-minute break or less, and we're going to get some more chairs up here for the next presentation.
size, the more heavily weighted the component is. As you can see on the left-hand side, Woodland as a whole received all of the points allocated for ELA, math, and science proficiency, and partial points for the other categories. On the right-hand side are the scores applied to the demographic group, students with disabilities. This would include students with an IEP or a 504 plan. Woodland's ranking with this demographic group, when compared with other schools statewide, was the primary reason for Woodland to be identified as a targeted school. But you can see there are other areas that apply to all students where growth would be beneficial. This next slide shows one piece of data that our school improvement planning team looked at when planning for school improvement. It depicts results for our entire student body from the Illinois Assessment of Readiness, or IAR, in reading and in math. The green portion shows the percentage of students meeting or exceeding grade level standards. Now this model represents the school improvement plan process. Our team has met numerous times to use previously shown data and conduct our needs assessment, which led to the creation of our school improvement plan. The findings from the needs assessment included the need for consistent monitoring of plan implementation and opportunities for targeted professional learning that improve practice for all staff. Through this presentation, you will see the relevant evidence-based practices that our team will work to implement and monitor this school year. As we moved into the school improvement process, one big motivator was our success with setting and meeting our attendance goal, prompted by the district's focus on average daily attendance for the 23-24 school year. Woodland's goal was 90% of students attending school 90% of the time. We exceeded that goal, ending the year with a percentage of 93.3% of students attending school. This was not only motivating because we saw success in meeting this lofty goal, but also improving student learning requires students to be in school. Utilizing the school improvement model that we just saw, these are the two priorities our team identified for the upcoming school year. Our priorities are high quality instruction and differentiation for all students, and increased collaboration among disciplines. Differentiation means tailoring instruction to meet individual needs. Whether teachers differentiate content, process, products, or the learning environment, the use of ongoing assessment and flexible grouping makes this a successful approach to instruction. As part of this process, our team set 2 school improvement goals, each with action steps and ways to monitor for student progress. Our first goal is focusing on increasing English language arts scores on the IAR assessment. Identified action steps to meet our priorities include increased professional learning, additional collaboration and data analysis through common planning times among paired general and special education teachers built into the master schedule, and implementation of reading intervention across grade level teams. For example, I am one of 6 general education 5th grade teachers at Woodland, and there are 2 special education teachers on my grade level team. My classroom shares the same schedule as one other 5th grade teacher and our special education counterpart, so we have common plan time every morning during my students' special time. Additionally, our grade level special education counterparts will join our weekly professional learning team meetings at the very least 2 times per month to ensure focus and support for all students across the grade level. To monitor these steps, leadership will do fidelity checks, grade level teams will develop and implement common formative assessments, and staff will use FastBridge data to make instructional decisions. Our second goal is focusing on increasing math scores on the IAR assessment. Similar to our first goal, identified action steps focus on professional learning and increased collaboration and data analysis. Additionally, all District 7 students will have access to an individually adaptive math program. This program will provide teachers the opportunity to monitor student progress towards the school improvement goal, along with the use of grade level developed common formative assessments. Moving forward, our team will continue to meet monthly to assess and monitor progress toward our school improvement goals. Instructional coaches will develop and deliver professional development to all staff focused on IAR, evidence-based instructional practices, FastBridge, and inclusion. Some examples of the PD that will be provided include instructional practice to help support students in IAR format, evidence-based best practices for building background knowledge through rigorous text, increasing comprehension through writing, utilizing standards for mathematical practice, and incorporating engagement strategies and inquiry-based instruction, and strategies for inclusion such as increased and regular access to grade level text, and supporting learners with strategies such as visuals, sentence stems, and universal assistive technology. In conclusion, going back to what Dr. Williams said at the very beginning, our team has adopted the How Can We theme, just like the district has. We see this school improvement process as an opportunity to not only help students in our building, but across District 7. So, are there any questions?
You must have did a really good job.
I do have a couple of questions. You mentioned earlier that your attendance rate last year was 93% for the whole school. Just out of curiosity, what was the percentage, or you don't have to tell me, you can just tell me that you've looked at it, the percentage of students in the Children with Disabilities group, to see if they've had an increase in their attendance rate as well?
So that percentage was for all students at our building. What we did last year, our focus was on grade levels. So we had a bulletin board in our lobby, which we still currently have. And it said 3rd grade it had the percentage weekly, 4th grade had the percentage weekly, 5th grade had the percentage weekly, and then it was the school percentage. This year our bulletin board just has 3rd, 4th, and 5th. We're continuing to focus on that attendance. And actually, as I was walking up the stairs this morning, I saw they're still tracking which grade level it has the highest attendance, and 5th grade had 95+% attendance last week. So, but we do have that incorporated building-wide to focus on all students in our building.
Okay. The reason I ask is part of that targeted designation came from that population. So, you know, having statistics posted around the school, I can understand why you wouldn't want to do that, but internally hoping that you're looking at that data, especially with respect to your iReady, your FastBridge, how those students are comparing to their peers. Also, I noticed on here climate survey. I hate to call them easy points, but you know, what's the plan this year to get parent participation on your climate survey?
So we're going to be pushing out that information in our weekly newsletter. The communication process will come from me to families. Also, Allie and I talked a lot about ways to incorporate participation from families, and we are going to be doing, we have a block party coming up on the 13th of September, Friday the 13th. And we're inviting families, and we're going to make ourselves visible and present. And in addition to that, we're talking about ways in which we can have outreach sessions where we can get parents into the building to have to talk about, maybe we're talking about a particular part of our school motto, for example, because kids will be coming home talking about these things. Just different ways to get closer in touch. I think we're in the post-COVID world now, and we need to be opening up our doors more to families, and they need to be able to know that they're partnering with us.
Yeah. All right. I hope that you're using the "how can we" to really embrace parents and community to come in and be participants in the school too. So, thank you.
We definitely are.
Yeah.
We have a mural on our second floor. If you haven't been to the building, you should come and see it. But it's really a beautiful statement of Woodland is family, and the word family is printed in every language that's spoken in the district, including sign language. So it is definitely a focus, not just with Allie and myself, but with the entire family. You know, we're doing everything that we can to make everyone feel very welcome and very safe, and able to be vulnerable, right, for that growth. So.
Yeah, thank you.
And as Jennifer said, just to kind of follow up on that, how can we, I think we as a board also say, how can we support you? And we just want to offer our continued support for your building success. Because when, you know, you have the power to really change the lives of not just the students in the classroom, but throughout the school district. So that's a wonderful thing. And we fully support you.
So I have a couple questions, and I apologize. It's born out of just my own experience of sitting up here and looking at all these numbers. So I guess what number gets the school off the targeted list?
So it takes 3 years to get off the list.
Okay.
And you have to, and it's about where everybody else ranks in the state.
Okay.
So it's comparative. So there's no number that gets you off the list or onto the list. It all is dependent on how everybody else in the state performs.
Okay. That's okay. So then I guess the next question is, I mean, the goals are, and maybe I'm reading too much into, I guess, but a lot of these processes that we're talking about, I hear a lot in other discussions with regard to other schools. So in some ways, it just kind of sounds like we're doing the same thing we're doing at other schools from a process perspective, which I understand, because if they're good processes, then, you know, let's do them. I guess from my perspective, if we're doing the same process as other schools, I mean, are we doing anything different from a staffing perspective in supporting that, since it sounds like Woodland might need more help from instituting those processes? That would be my concern, making sure that, you know, that there's almost like, I guess, what you would maybe call in the military, maybe a flash team that sort of is sort of rushing to help in this particular area because there's a need there. I'm not hearing a lot of that. So I guess that would be something that I would want to highlight, is that I'm not hearing from a staffing perspective that is sort of around that realm.
Y'all want to talk about your flash team?
Hi. So one of the things that is a little bit more unique to the Woodland building and what you're seeing around the district is we are trying to pull more of a collaboration between the general ed and the special ed, and we're drawing special ed more into our community as far as being a more days with the general education teachers as far as planning, the team planning. Another thing we're trying to do is pull our special education teachers into the general education curriculum more by making sure that they're being exposed to grade level materials. Even if they can't read at grade level, they need to be exposed to grade level materials. They're taking an IAR test at grade level. Sometimes they go into the test and they not only can't read it, but they're not familiar with the test design. So another thing that we're going to be doing across the building, but specifically with our special education cohort, is to make sure that they're aware of the IAR, how to take the IAR. And the thing about the IAR is that the writing is done with the computer, it's typed. And so we're making sure that all of our students, not just the special ed, but particularly the special ed students, are aware of the format of the test and to start practicing in that way. So even though the initiatives on paper seem very similar and very generalized, specific to our building, we're really trying to make sure that all means all, family means family. And in the past, you know, special ed and general ed have been a little bit more
more separate, we're pulling everybody together, and we're making sure that kids who take the IER at grade level know how to take the IER at grade level and know about the text.
Are class sizes the same as they were before? Are they smaller than they were before?
The special education class?
Well, just in general. I mean, I guess the harder question is, kind of what is the problem statement? Where are the areas that you need the focus, and are we helping with the class size to help with the intensity of what's going to be needed in those classes?
Well, sure. So special education students have a smaller class sizes when they are in the special education class. So that is when they get their individualized education plan. That's when they really focus on what their specific goals are. When they push out into the general education classroom, that is one of the reasons why our general education teacher and special education teacher meet, so that that curriculum can be adapted as needed to meet their needs. Like they might need a word bank when they're taking a test. They can take the test content, but they can't read it. So just how can we modify, not modify, but how can we adjust the curriculum so that we can give these students more support and be able to push them into the general education more. So it's not that our class sizes necessarily are smaller in the general ed, because I don't keep track of that. But what's important is that they're getting small class size and also exposure to grade level curriculum, pushing out into the curriculum. If that makes sense.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but there are percentage requirements for those placements of gen ed and special ed students. So,
what do you mean by that?
So, what is it, 70-30?
70-30.
Yeah, so 70% of a class, if you have special education students in the class, they can't exceed 30% of the total population of the students. So, in that 70-30 model, in some cases, depending on the student's IEP, they may have additional support in the classroom with not just the teacher, but a teacher and a co-teacher, or an aide. And if it goes, depending on the IEPs, you may have more individuals in the room to support the student who has the IEP. But you wouldn't know it walking into the classroom, who has one, who doesn't. Just out of curiosity, have you all looked at IEPs to determine if modifications for assessment have been, or appropriate modifications for assessment have been made for students? The extended time, things like that testing situation.
Yeah, I think my class size question was more of just in general. I mean, do we have more teachers than we did before to address the population? So that at least in general the class sizes are smaller, with regard to the special classes as opposed to the general classes. Not is the general class bigger or smaller than the special ed class, but just in general, are the class sizes smaller? Because I would imagine that would be would help from a, in general, if we've got more people to throw at it, then you've got more people to address the problem. And I guess that's kind of, my concern is that if we're dealing with the same staffing levels before as we are now, and we're adding more processes, how much more difficult is it to work harder and still achieve, better results than we were before? The pipe can only hold so much to go through it, and I just want to make sure either we're making the pipe bigger or we're giving more support to keep that pressure from getting outside of where it needs to be. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I will say that one of our grade levels increased from 4 sections. It was, 5 sections of 4th grade last year, and now that has turned into 6 sections of 5th grade. So that has made the class sizes of 5th grade smaller than they were when they were 4th graders. I also just wanted to piggyback off of what Cindy said about the difference between what we are doing. A big piece of that comes from our instructional coaches and professional learning for all of our staff. Part of the school improvement plan has given us some funds that we can have some of our staff come after hours, and they are going to be getting all of the knowledge that our team has spent all summer learning. We are ensuring that all of the staff, and not just teachers, but our band teachers, our assistants, and everybody can really be on the same page. And so that's something that's a lot different. It was in one of her slides, like all of the different things. But we already have those set up, and we have some
instructional coaches that have worked very heavily on ensuring that Woodland is getting a little extra professional learning as well.
If there was one thing extra on top of what you're already doing that you could get from support, what would it be? If you could get one more thing, like you asked for 5 things, but you only got 4, what was that 5th thing to help you, do what you think you need to do to get further down the road?
It's kind of like, what do you want for Christmas?
Well, think about it. You can get back to us. I'm sure we'll be talking again, but I think it's important that we have a sense of, if there's more that could be done, what can we do?
Well,
So.
I want to say that I appreciate you saying that because, and Ms. Del Rio as well, because ultimately this is a work in progress, and as we move through this school year with the plan, I think it's going to be very evident that we're going to see things that are really working and some things that maybe don't have the effect that we expected them to have. So, it's nice to know that through that process, as we see those needs, we're working very closely with Dr. Shelton, and we can certainly communicate those kinds of things and hopefully, have that level of support.
Okay.
Just one last thing. You mentioned on here under monitoring the fidelity checks on implementation, just how important that is to inspect what you expect. And then really monitor and, like you said, respond to what you see. So looking forward to seeing what you all do and seeing that success in this coming year.
And thank you for everything that you guys have done to this point, and I am sure that parents, the rest of your staff, and teachers I would think they would feel the same way. We greatly appreciate everything that you guys have done, and we'll support you in any way we can.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Again, my comment is that obviously it's not good to have this, recognition or put on your school, but yet if it causes this reaction and this reflection of what you can do better, and as you stated, to expand onto the rest of the schools in the district, there is a positive that's going to come out of this, as well as the scores and eventually getting taken off of the list. But there is that reflection of how you can do better and how everybody needs to, can do things differently than what has been done in the past. So. Any other comments?
Having met with this team over the summer, I can tell you every time we met, and this is not an exaggeration, but every time we got together, Andy had been contacted by someone else who wanted to be part of the team. And so I think that speaks to the work taking place on the team, to the people on the team. Every time we met, it was like, well, somebody else emailed me and they want to be part of the team too. And you don't hear about people wanting to come to work in the summer on something that's hard and difficult. And so I just want to shout out to Woodland staff because they've been amazing to work with from the last spring, last fall when we launched this, all throughout the summer. It's been one of the highlights of my summer work with this team. So.
Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
And at this time, I would like to welcome Alex Metzger, the district architect, to present to the board the Columbus School Playground.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to come in and present to you. All right, so I think I was here February of last year to kind of talk about Columbus and what we were looking to do. So finally it's here, fingers crossed. So where we're at Columbus, we're going to redo the playground. I've highlighted it in that yellow kind of box there. So essentially we are going to get rid of that horrible rock. No more bringing it inside and in the shoes. We are going to upgrade all the playground equipment, and if you've been by Columbus, you will see that's actually there, most of it. That first shipment has arrived. Let's see, we're replacing the retaining wall. I'm probably jumping ahead on my plans, but essentially we're here, we're going. So our bid documents were completed in June, and I'm going to jump down to my third piece there, but we went out to bid twice. First round was kind of in June with no bidders. Second round looked promising. We had a couple people come to our bid walk, but no one actually submitted bids, and the bid opening was on the 20th of August. So with that, we kind of reflected on it. We talked to some people that looked like they were going to bid, but then ended up not bidding. And tonight we were going to go for approval for Keller Construction. So they have looked at the project. They're interested in the project. There's one piece of it that we will handle on our side as the district. But it's very promising, and they will also are planning to complete it by our substantial completion date of November 15th. So with that, all moving forward finally, I'm sure everyone is very excited for that. I can jump back to the equipment for a second then. So I presented on the play on guidelines. So we are really trying to enforce that into our playground designs. So essentially there are 6 key elements: balancing, spinning, brachiating, sliding, climbing, and swinging. So making sure that every playground that we do from now on will always include at least one of each of these. I believe on Columbus we've got 2 slides, there's a bunch of brachiating, so essentially that's like monkey bars, modified monkey bars. There's a couple different climbing pieces, we've got a bunch of swings, there's tandem swings, there's accessible swings, and then there are some climbing pieces too. So that's kind of our final design here. Again, when we're eliminating all that rock, that means we have an opportunity to add some green space in. So I know right now at that playground there is literally no grass for those kids to play in. So we're going to pull a lot of the equipment into the center, as it almost already is. There's going to be a small walking path that goes around it. It's going to be concrete, and then you're going to have your grass on the outside. The surface for the playground will be a poured in place rubber surfacing. On my next slide I've got some colors and you can kind of see what the texture looks like. So we've got all of our different equipment here. The colors will be different. I've got kind of a color palette on the next one here that kind of aligns with Columbus's colors. But essentially we've got traditional swings, we've got tandem swings, we've got the treetop climber, and then that picture on the bottom left is actually of the equipment we will be receiving. Again, not the right colors though. So colors, we went with a scheme called Gumdrop. 1, it's a fun name. 2, it's a very pleasing palette. Again, it was really to take hold of that blue from Columbus. It doesn't have the exact blue, but it's pretty close, and I think it'll be a great addition to that area. The pictures on the left is the poured in place surfacing, so it's going to be a light gray, really kind of a neutral palette there that really emphasizes more of the fun colors of the playground equipment. And I knew you guys were going to ask me what it's going to look like during construction at an elementary school in the middle of the year. So there will be a construction fence that goes up. That's that heavy red line. So that's going to stretch all the way from there's a big vehicle gate where it says construction entrance. It'll spread all the way from there, kind of cutting that basketball court down. Students will still have access to those hoops, just not all of them. Then it'll curve around the current playground. There is some kind of a buffer zone with that asphalt that we will be needing to remove and doing some stormwater cleanup, I guess, and addition of some stormwater piping. So that work, assuming you guys do approve that tonight for Keller Construction, we're hoping to get that going in the next few weeks. So in September, we're definitely going to kick off this project. We'll have the retaining wall to that north end will be redone, so we'll have to gain access on I think that's High Street, gain access on High Street, recent work some stuff there, do some sidewalk construction, and then we'll have some electrical pieces that we'll also take care of that'll come from the building, but that'll be outside the play area for the students. So the entire kind of blue perimeter area is all open for play for students. It's going to be clearly noted where students are allowed to be, where construction people are allowed to be. They have a separate entrance. It's going to be a great project. Questions?
What's the life expectancy of the ground covers, the rubber?
Joe, that's a hard question.
Okay.
I don't know if I know that one off the top of my head.
Okay, just get back to us then, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I know it's a good time on that. Essentially, you can reapply is not the right term, but it's kind of like a track surface.
Okay,
In that aspect,
that you can
recode
you
in,
can,
yeah.
okay.
Reseal.
Reseal, thank you for the words, yes.
Are the trees, you're not taking any trees out?
We did take one tree out. It was dead.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know what the species of that was, but it was along the north side between those two trees. I've got a laser, but it doesn't work on this screen.
Okay, but still there's, so there's shade there.
So yeah, there is, all those trees that you see there do stay.
Okay.
The dead one doesn't show up on this graphic anyway because it doesn't have.
Glad to see there's some with covering on it too. Not a lot, but still.
Yeah, there's a lot of good shade out there. And I think with the grass that we're adding around the perimeter, if I go back a few slides here, adding all that grass around, there's a lot of space that you can just kind of hang out and sit underneath the trees. We are adding some benches around that walking path as well, so they should be a lot of good coverage.
Take it a sprinkler system?
We are not doing a sprinkler system at this time. But we'll have to water it because it will be sod. So, but thankfully it'll be going in at that good time. And it can go dormant for a little bit, and then as soon as spring hits, we can make sure we get that. Hopefully we have a good wet spring.
Remind me, you may have said this, I apologize, what's the time frame?
We will be starting September to about mid-November. So the tricky part here is our substantial completion date with Keller will be November 15th. However, we have already contracted with Game Time and Cunningham Playgrounds for the equipment and the port-in-place surfaces. So we have to really work through our schedule to make sure that we can try to get everybody in to get that completed before hopefully the first snows.
So when I'm looking at the package, are we talking about the base bid or the alternate bid?
I believe we have a do not exceed for the alternate. So essentially, I didn't kind of touch on this, but this project is a big project, but it's also not very big comparative to a lot of contractors. So it's too big for a small landscape company, but it's too small for most GCs.
Sure.
So we're kind of in that weird middle ground here. And then with the time frame that we kept putting out there, originally we wanted it done before school started. We did push it a little longer for the second bid opening and gave more time for construction and more time to bid, but it still wasn't appetizing enough. So that alternate is to address that, we want it done before it gets too terribly cold outside.
And I apologize if I already said this. Is this paid for from bonds or some other fund?
It's part of the committed fund balance that we did at the end of the school year from the operations and maintenance fund.
Okay.
And Alex, you may have answered my question, but it was round one, round two, no bidders, and then finally having Keller. Was Keller the only bid that we received?
Yes. So they never actually submitted on round two for the bids. They were going to submit, but they didn't have an electrical contractor on board, so they didn't submit.
Okay.
So we used O's Associates to reach out to all the people that were going to submit, and I think they probably would have been our only person. So with that really shows us that there's not really anyone else interested in the project right now. So if they can do all the major heavy work and we can get someone to do the electrical on our side, then I think we should be set. I'm working on talking to a couple different electricians on seeing what we can do here.
But your best bet is the reasoning you gave before about a big project for a small firm or too small of a project for a bigger firm is the reason why we had trouble finding a bidder.
I really think so, and I think the time frame too. Summer work we all know is very hard to do.
Yeah.
And if you don't get out in that sweet time to get the project out there, and then if it's not the right size, people are interested at first and then realize that it's not really what they're needing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think having the equipment and the port in place under a separate contract kind of dissuade some people from wanting to submit a bid. I think they wanted more work.
Gotcha.
But we went through a state contract for that and got a really good design and approach to that.
Okay.
What electric are you bringing out? Electric for light?
There
Just for
is,
lights?
yes. So we're going to have to run electricity from the 1886 building, which is the one closest to the playground there. So electric, and then we're going to run future data lines where we put cameras out into there. If we're doing this, let's make sure we're thinking about the future. So yeah, there was, I think, 3 light poles potentially. Where am I looking at? Oh no, I took them off. Oh, I can see that. 1, 2, I think there's 3.
And is there going to be any other work done either now or in the foreseeable future with the other playground between the building and this equipment?
So this is what we're calling phase 1 of the Columbus playground adventure. The second phase would be looking at all of the asphalt and then how we can make that an even more usable space, because I think we all know it slopes pretty well down to that playground area. So trying to figure out better ways that the students can utilize that space, and then making sure it's highly visible for monitoring. So yes, there's a phase 2, we just haven't gotten to that point yet.
Okay. Any other questions?
Was that part of the committed fund balance? We have no idea what that project phase 2 is going to cost yet. Okay.
We're not even sure what it would look like.
We don't know.
Okay.
Do either of our student reps, did either of you go to Columbus?
Pay for?
No?
No, but it seems like it's going to be a fun time to be a kid at Columbus.
They're probably like watching the construction too. I was going to say after, but maybe during.
And this is just a precursor of what is going to happen at our other elementary buildings as
Yes.
far as similar equipment, like you had said earlier.
We are working through what that looks like for each of the other elementary schools, and hopefully getting a timeline that we can get people amped up about. But yeah, so this would be, a lot of the other playgrounds would follow this model to where we'll add lights, we'll get future data cabling for potential cameras, new equipment, and new surfaces that is not that darn rock.
Well, I have to confess, I did go to that school when I was in 6th grade, and I think some of that equipment that was there was probably there when I was in 6th grade. So. Any other questions? Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And we will move on to board committees and administrative committees. We will start with the policy committee. Jennifer Brown-Back, could you give a report, please?
Sure. So the policy committee met this evening at 6:30. We discussed several items. First were policies that had some language change or proposals. The first one is policy 2-150 with relation to committees. The recommendation from the committee is to remove item number 7, which is the CAC. Discussion at our last board meeting and at the policy meeting this evening was that we have 3 committees that have kind of taken the place of the CAC, Parent-Teacher Advisory, Behavior Interventions, and the steering committees. And as a former member of the CAC myself, I can tell you there's more parental participation on these 3 committees than were ever on the CAC that I sat on. And just by space of the room and formality, I know that when someone came off, they would replace with someone. So while that wasn't one of the talking points, it was one of those aha moments that if we're looking for opportunities to keep parents involved, having these 3 committees in place not only serve for that involvement, but also topically what was happening on the CAC. Another policy that we looked at was policy 4-110, dealing with transportation. It's replacing the director of transportation with the district's private sector school bus company, just changing that language. But it's also adding a statement that ensures that the district's fleet of vehicles used to transport students must pass all safety inspections in accordance with state law and Illinois Department of Transportation regulations. The next policy needing revision was policy 470, dealing with resource conservation. IASB recommended that we change the language just to ensure that we commit to reducing solid waste. In addition to those three, there were 11 policies that don't have any changes but required review, and we reviewed those. And there are 2 exhibits for policy 270 and also an exhibit for policy 2160. They've been created to meet the legal requirements of their associated policies. And that is my report.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other committee reports? I don't have any on the agenda at this time. The only other reports that we have are from each of the individual principals from the schools, elementary, middle schools, and high school. And everyone is welcome to read those on board docs and hear and read about what's been going on the first couple of weeks of school. And we will move on to our action considerations. And first is approval of action item 8.1. Dr. Shelton.
Thank you. It's recommended the Board of Education approve personnel matters related to the resignations and retirements of employees as discussed earlier this evening in executive session.
Move for approval.
Second.
And questions, discussion? Please call the roll.
Delariva?
Yes.
Runbeck?
Yes.
Bunt?
Yes.
Sanderson?
Yes.
Patey?
Yes.
Bertles?
Yes. Approval of action item 8.2. Dr. Shelton.
Thank you. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve personnel matters related to the appointment, employment, compensation, or transfers of employees, pending required certifications and professional educator license, completion of paperwork, and all background fingerprint checks completed and cleared as discussed earlier.
Move to approve.
Second.
And questions? Please call the roll.
Sanderson?
Yes.
Bunt?
Yes.
Delariva?
Yes.
Runbeck?
Yes.
Patey?
Yes.
Bertles?
Yes. Approval of action item 8.3. Dr. Shelton.
Thank you. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve a 3-year contract for student transportation services with First Student effective July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2027.
Move for approval.
Second.
And questions or discussion?
So since I missed the last board meeting, this was one I was going to talk about. My concern, not a deal breaker for me, with the fact that it's a 3-year contract, I would prefer that if we're doing multi-year, that it actually be part of having gone through a bid process. I understand the logistics of the overall market, but that is something I kind of feel strongly about. I am concerned about having had a presentation from SIUE about the transportation routes and the data required for that type of stuff and the difference in the data type that they require to be able to do that job. I was really hoping to see, and I think we even discussed in that meeting, that it'd be called out in the contract for the data be available and contractually there to provide them with the information that they need at SIUE to do the work that they need. I think that that's something that, as we went through this process, I was hoping to see that. The ownership of the data and all that, I think if we are going to build routes based on that data to the detail that they need, I think there needs to be more of a co-ownership or some ability for us to be able to have control over some of that data. So it's that is something I feel strongly about. And then I guess, basically on some of the things we heard tonight, I do have additional concerns about the fact that we are relying on the contract as far as providing information to parents. And I think that is a concern that I don't see addressed in this contract.
So Dave has been involved in the negotiations as well. So Dave, I'm going to ask you to just jump into the conversation. But we made a couple changes in the contract before it came to the board from the work session. One of them was in 7.2, we added language around reports and and information shared from the contractor to the district so that it's in the format that we want, as opposed to a mutually acceptable. So again, small language change, but I went to Dave based on the feedback that you had given and said, hey, we need to be the one to make sure that it's coming in the format that we want, and that's not up for negotiation. The second piece was in 6.5, the district reserves the right to establish routes and schedules to be followed, which gives us the ability to take the information that we would get from SIUE and turn it around and say, here, first student, these are the routes that we want to do. So until we're ready to do that, we need them to continue to operate the routes, but we still have final say on those routes. We also put some language in here on that those routes would be approved by us 5 days before the first day of enrollment, which has not happened up until this year. So this is the first year we've had those routes 5 days in advance. And I don't remember your third point, but.
Well, I mean, I guess back to the reports though, there's a difference between providing reports and then providing the data. And as long as that difference is made clear, I understand what you're saying. I just think the work that they're doing at SIUE is pretty fantastic. And I want to make sure that we do whatever we can to make that data transfer fluid.
Dave, you want to talk about 20.1, because I know you had some conversations with First Student about data.
Is that on the SOPA?
Yes.
Data breach?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
we added language about transferring data, and if there was a data breach, the First Student would notify the district if something was compromised. If their system got breached on some kind of data, transaction or something like that. I'm sorry. But, so the question on the other thing is, in the conversations I have with First Student, I think if there is a little tweak or word that needs to be added, it can be, because I don't think they've not been, every suggestion that I have given them, they have not come back with anything different. They've accepted them.
I understand.
So if there's some word that needs to be added before we sign it, I'm sure we can do that.
And Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think 20.1, the way the language is that we grant them the right to utilize and access the data. So the data by contract language is implied as it's our data.
Right.
And that's what we needed to provide to SIUE.
Okay. And service data is SIUE's data? Is that?
It can be.
Okay.
It can be any data that we provide.
Okay.
Okay.
And then, Bob, you mentioned that multi-year contract, but
Yes.
within this contract, under 19.3, then either party may terminate this agreement for convenience upon.
Yeah, and Dr. Shelton had already had a conversation with me about that. So, but I still feel it was a point that I wasn't here 2 weeks ago.
Sure.
Right.
So I wanted to make sure I made the
Right,
point.
okay.
Because the whole conversation happened without me here. So I just want to make sure that I conveyed that.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay. We have a motion and a second. Would you please call the roll?
Della Riva.
Yes.
Sanderson.
Yes.
Runback.
Yes.
Fund.
Yes.
Patey.
No.
Birtles.
Yes. And our next action consideration is approval of action item 8.4. Mr. Courtney.
Thank you, Mr. Bertels. Recommend the Board of Education grant its approval to enter into a contract with Keller Construction to complete the renovation of the Columbus Elementary School playground at a cost not to exceed $440,207.
Move for approval.
Second.
And any questions or discussion for this? Please call the roll.
Della Riva.
Yes.
Runback.
Yes.
Fund.
Yes.
Sanderson.
Yes.
Patey.
Yes.
Birtles.
Yes. Approval of action item 8.5. Mr. Courtney.
Thank you, Mr. Bertels. Recommended the Board of Education approve the disposal of surplus technology equipment in accordance with board policy.
Move for approval.
Second.
And questions or discussion? Please call the roll.
Della Riva.
Yes.
Sanderson.
Yes.
Runback.
Yes.
Fund.
Yes.
Patey.
Yes.
Birtles.
Yes. Approval of action item 8.6, Dr. Shelton.
Thank you. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve the first reading of policy updates as presented and recommended by the Policy Committee earlier this evening.
Move for approval. Second. And questions, discussion?
So on 2.150, the committees, the elimination of the CAC, I personally, just because I wasn't here 2 weeks ago and wasn't able to have this conversation. I do understand on one hand the conversation about that we have 3 other committees that do the job. I guess my concern centers around the fact that it sounds like probably what we really should do is just rename CAC to steering committee. I mean, we're already going to have 2 board members on the steering committee present. I think it in some ways having 2 board members on that particular type of committee sets up, particularly since we use it for the development of the strategic plan and sort of the direction and showing connection to the community, and 2 board members on the committee, that to me, it makes more sense because I personally kind of feel like that the other members of the committee who are going to be from the community are going to see 2 board members and see us more or less not just a general member like them, but more kind of like part of who they are going to be talking to. So I see this in the sense of where that particular committee could be and used. I completely understand how it was used in the past, but I think that maybe a retooling of the name so it's more under the board and part of the general structure might be in a more appropriate direction. That's how I feel.
So it's really just rewriting a whole new number 7 on this list is what you're saying.
Renaming, because I mean, if we're saying that the steering committee basically does the same thing, then let's just change the name of CAC to steering committee.
There's 3 different committees that.
Okay, well then.
Yeah, no, I totally get steering committee. I'm totally on board for that. I just don't think that what's there. I think it just have to be rewritten the way what you just said is how it would have to.
I'm fine with that too. I just don't.
Committee would come off.
To me, it sounds like we're saying we're replacing it with another one, but it's not necessarily being replaced. In a way, it's kind of being demoted away from the board, but yet the board members are still members. And so I don't know, from a hierarchy standpoint, to me, it just makes sense that if it's important to have, that we just retool it to update it to how we envision it being used in the future.
I see it, just the CAC being archived and the steering committee going in its place if that's what makes more sense and comfortable with.
For the purposes of tonight's discussion, I think we could approve it as it is with the removal of the CAC, then circle back around through policy committee and create some new policy regarding either the steering committee and its relationship to the board and its placement within policy itself, and kind of move forward from there. Because as it is, CAC doesn't exist anymore. And so if we leave the policy in place, we're basically saying there's a CAC when there's not. So I'm thinking remove number 7, then circle back around at a later policy committee meeting and then discuss maybe some changes.
So this is a first read, which means that we've got the opportunity to do revision, to circle back around on second read, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so if we go back to the action, right now what's being proposed is that we remove CAC on it. So that would, I mean, what we're discussing about doing would be in line with the motion as it is? Okay. And then at our policy meeting, we can work on language around steering committee for number 7, and that would be part of a second read, or would we have to do a first read with that again?
I think we'd have to do a first read with that because it would be in addition to the policy, which would be fine.
Okay. So approving it with this recommendation tonight would allow for us to remove CAC, but then have the opportunity to add language for number 7.
Okay. I completely understand the argument about why it needs to change.
Yeah.
I'm not arguing that. I guess my concern is, what does it become, or is it
What do we
just,
put in its
will it
place?
just
Yeah,
go
no,
away?
no,
I
it's fine.
think-
No, nobody thinks that it does. I mean, that makes sense. It's a valid point.
Yep. Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Brumback?
Yes.
Fund?
Yes.
Delariva?
Yes.
Sanderson?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Bertles?
Yes. And our next action item is approval of action item 8.7. Dr. Shelton.
Thank you. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve the Woodland Elementary School Improvement Plan for the 2024-2025 school year.
Move for approval.
Second?
Do we have any discussion or comments from board members on this?
It's really exciting to see the passion of this team. That just gives you so much hope that they're going to really make change in the lives of these kids, and then that extends to their families.
It is. And, you know, a plan is a plan, and you can't go anywhere without one. But it does, I remember Mike Tyson's comments, you know, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. You know, when the rubber meets the road and you're implementing this plan, you know, having the forethought and the ability to be honest about what you're seeing and changing direction if you need to is the most important part of the plan, and not be so stuck on the plan that we can't make it work a different way. So I support it, but just with the understanding that, you know, just because this is the plan doesn't mean that it might not need to be changed. So.
Bob, weave, and pivot. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
What did you say?
Bob, weave, and pivot.
Oh.
For a minute there, I thought she was asking me to weave.
Good job.
I was like, where are we going?
Okay. Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Delariva?
Yes.
Brumback?
Yes.
Fund?
Yes.
Sanderson?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Bertles?
Yes. And at this time, we will ask, are there any board members that would like to make any announcements this evening?
I don't have an announcement, more of a clarifying question. There was a teacher at the high school that won when the, I'm bad
Surprise
at-
Squad?
Yes,
Yeah.
thank
Yep.
you.
Heather Clausen.
Okay. And what did they recognize her for?
So the Surprise Squad, and Marianne, I might call on you real quick because Marianne coordinated it. But the Surprise Squad is a thing that KMOV does to just try to highlight somebody in the organization. And this is the first time they had embedded the Surprise Squad with their back to school Matt Chambers special. And so that was a first for them. They reached out and said, who is somebody that is doing some amazing things that you never get to talk about? And so Heather Clausen was one of those people. She has several different little student organizations that she works with that don't really get a lot of highlighting. And so it was an opportunity for us to be able to do that for her.
Fantastic.
We
Congratulations.
talked to some of the teachers about her too, and they were all like, she's just a ray of sunshine wherever she goes. She's
The most
so
positive
nice.
person I've ever met is what I've heard from several people.
That's fantastic. Well, that was neat to see.
Yeah. And the high school staff kept it a secret.
That's
There were
pretty
at
impressive.
least 30 teachers who
Super
knew
impressive.
who were there Friday morning as well.
Very impressive.
Yeah.
And a good student showing of the students came.
Yeah,
Different
absolutely.
athletic
Yeah, it was
teams.
awesome. Yeah, 5:30 in the morning.
But you did get a donut, right?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Okay.
I do have one thing, and I want to address a comment that was made earlier with regard to start time at the high school, just because this is truly an issue that is very near and dear to my heart, living to the north. Not to give too much information, but you know, I have a child that's in an upper class and a freshman. The freshman does early bird, the other one does not. They all have to get up before 5. My freshman, we could take her to the drop point to be able to pick up the bus, but that's 10 minutes north of where I live, and then she has to ride the bus to school. Or I could get up and take her, and then literally after I'm dropping her off, the other one is getting in the car to start getting himself ready. So I'm very attuned to the issue of start time for the high school. And it is my number one priority to address. So just want to make sure that that's very clear. From my perspective, it's a big deal. So I hope we make a change very soon.
And I would like to see that change, but I also think that we need to do that on a bigger level, because then we have more school districts that are on board with making those changes. And Lynn talked about the IASB meeting in September 25th in Sparta, and it's a chance for us to talk to legislators. And this is a great opportunity for us to discuss, well, 3 things that are near and dear to my heart, which are cell phone use, and then funding for school meals for all Illinois children, and then, of course, later school start times. So I hope you consider going and talking to legislators on the 25th of September, because I think those are some really big issues that we really need to address, not just here locally, but also on a state level, because with that, we have more force with some of our decisions.
And it helps with some of the conflict that'll happen with the sports times of sports after school, and you know, if other schools have to do the same thing, then
It is important,
Yeah.
and I agree. That is a change that needs to happen. But this board can make it happen sooner than they can.
Yeah.
And Dr. Shelton has said that was the goal for our doing the transportation study and working with SIUE and Dr. Randy Pearson and his associates.
I just
was to
think it's important.
really work. So it is, I think just from the work that we did this summer at our retreat, that it says to me that we are still very much on target to address later school start times. I
just think it's important people know we haven't dropped it.
Absolutely.
So,
There's
not
just
at
a
all.
lot of steps to get there. A lot of steps. It's more than just saying, okay, let's change the time. There's a lot of coordination. Okay. Any other announcements? At this time, being no further business, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.